We are now live, Susan.
Just trying to verify that. It takes a minute or so. Okay. Yes, we are. Yes, we are live.
All right, again, welcome everybody. So Susan, you ready to do roll call or?
I am whenever you are.
Okay, I'm ready.
Let me get Sheila in here and then we'll go forward. All right. Angela Banks.
Here.
Christina Bennett.
Present.
Lois Cross. Sheila Goodwin. She's probably still connecting. Donna Jones. Yvette Levy. Martell Mann. I know he was running late. Bobby Richardson.
Here.
Albert Sanders.
Here.
Justin Stein.
Here.
Doris Walker.
Here.
Sheila Goodwin.
Present.
All right. So we do have 7, so we have enough for a quorum.
Okay. So everybody have their meeting agenda.
This is Chairman Cross, if I may.
Okay.
My apologies, Chairman Cross is joining now. Did you want to go ahead, Bobby, while he's joining?
Okay, while we waiting on that, if everybody have their agenda in front of them, on tab number 2, the approval of the minutes from the last meeting, and then we have to make a motion on that, Susan.
That's right.
So I would like somebody to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Okay, was that you, Albert, or?
I make a motion to accept the minutes from our last board meeting.
Second.
Okay. It has been moved and second. So up under tab number 3, the reading of communication to the Board of Trustees. Do we have anything, Susan?
Yeah, and Trustee Richardson, we do need to just have by acclamation all in favor of approving those minutes after the motions were
I'm sorry.
approved.
Okay.
That's okay. That's okay.
All in favor of the motion to approve the Board of Trustees regular meeting on February the 22nd, 2020?
Aye.
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 I have it and the motion then carry, right?
Perfect.
Hello,
Hey, Louis.
how you doing?
Okay, we got started and we on item number 3 on the
Okay.
agenda.
I don't know why I'm having a hard time today, but anyway, what did I do?
Okay, well, we're gonna go ahead on tab number 3, reading of the
Right.
communication to the Board of Trustees. Susan, you was gonna elaborate on that?
I don't have any items.
Okay. All right, tab number 4, presentation by interested parties. Do we have any, Susan?
I do not have any.
You ready, Louis? Not yet.
Okay,
Tab number 5, Louis.
okay, we're on 5.
Yes.
All right. Approval of retirement and benefits. That's right.
Yes.
Okay. So can I get a motion to approve for the approval of retirement and benefits for March and April of 2022?
I make a motion that we approve the retirements and benefits for 2022.
Richardson, second.
All in favor, do we do, all in favor, aye?
Yeah.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, now I'd like to have a motion for approval of refunds and bills for February and March of 2022. Is there a second?
February,
Is it-
March of 2022.
Yes,
Okay.
refund the bills.
Approval of the refund and bills for February and March of 2022. Was there a second?
Who made
Nobody
the motion?
second.
Who made the motion?
Goodwin made the motion.
Okay.
I second.
Second.
All in
Was it
favor?
Justin? Justin, that was you?
That was me.
Albert.
Albert.
Okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, unfinished business. Sue, do we have any?
I don't have anything at this time.
Okay, report of the chairperson.
Hey,
Uh,
all right.
Justin, did you have something?
No,
Oh, okay, I thought you said something. Okay, I just want to reiterate that Sue and I and Matt and Jim met before the board planning, not the planning committee, the work session, and we presented the information on the current status of the way the board is reducing our amount that we receive from them every January, starting in 18. So approximately, I don't know the exact amount, but we're at 2.5%, and we would be 3% of January of 23. So we presented all of our figures, actuarial figures and so forth and so on. And Sue and Matt and Jim did a fantastic job. Dr. Adams responded by suggesting that we maybe look into a 401k or or joining the state retirement system. And we're going to request another meeting with the work session of the St. Louis Public School Board of Education, so that we can get what their responses are to our information that we prepared. The actuary had some projections on what it would be if we went all the way through 2032 and so forth and so on. And of course, we don't want that to happen. So I think we are waiting to see if in fact the board will take a look at it and stop the process. So that's kind of what we're waiting on to see if they will take a look at it and maybe decide that instead of going all the way down from wherever they are now down to 9% from 18, maybe they will stop the process. At least that's what we would like to have. Sue, did you want to add anything to that?
I don't really have anything to add. I mean, we did have some questions. And I don't know if Matt, you're going to talk about it further in your report.
Correct.
Okay, Matt, then I'll leave that with you.
Okay.
I also would like to make a motion here. Dr. Sanders was moved to the legislative committee along with Justin Stein, but I also wanted him to serve on the investment committee as well, and that takes a vote from the trustees. So as you know, Dr. Sanders was already on the investment committee, and we got a new member assigned to us by the school board, and that was Martell Mann. And so he's, along with Christina Bennett, are on the investment committee, but I also want to include Dr. Sanders as a third person on that committee, in addition to him serving on the legislative committee. So at this time, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to entertain a motion that get the vote of the trustees to allow Dr. Sanders to serve on the investment committee as a third person, in addition to serving on the legislative committee with Justin Stein. Could I get a second?
Second.
Do I get a roll call vote on this, Sue?
Yes.
Okay, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Okay. Angela Banks,
Yes.
Christina Bennett,
Absolutely.
Lewis Cross,
Yes.
Sheila Goodwin,
Sheila, are you on mute?
No,
Are you on mute?
wait a minute. Yes.
okay. Right. Bobby Richardson,
Yes.
Albert Sanders,
Yes.
Justin Stein,
Yes.
Doris Walker.
Yes.
Okay. So we have 8, so the motion carries.
Okay. And to finish up, we had an excellent meeting with those board members, but a lot of them had not reviewed all of the information that we provided to them. They got it in plenty of time, but they're inundated. So I asked that we do another session with the Board of Education in a work setting, and get their responses to it and see if we get their approval. And like I said, I'm going to turn out the rest of that over to Matt at that time. Okay. Next, report of the executive director. Sue?
Yeah, and Chairman Cross, were you going to talk about that letter that we received on the grant
yes.
ads?
Yes. Thanks so much, Sue. I have received a correspondence from Velma Bailey, a former alderman of the St. Louis Alderman Board, and she was aware of a program that was sponsored by St. Louis County Library, and where they donated iPads to retirees. And in addition to the iPads, they also paid for the subscription service for those iPads free. And so she asked if we might take a look at getting involved in that to get the retirees. Of course, we have approximately 4,500 of them. And I did contact St. Louis County Library, the person's in charge. She's going to get back with me. She hasn't called me back today. Hopefully I'll get it tomorrow for the particulars. I talked to Dr. Alice Roach with Parson Blewett, and she said she wasn't aware of it, but she said, let her know what's going on. Hopefully maybe we can even get Parson Blewett to fund it. I don't know. But it would be a collaborative venture, and we would collaborate with the state retirement program organization, Local 420, talk with Dr. Carrie Cunningham, who's president of the Administrators Union for St. Louis Public School System. And they're all interested in taking a look at that because, of course, we have retirees that are principals and security officers, secretary, clerical, paraprofessional, teachers, and the whole gang. So at this particular point in time, as I get more information, Sue and I will disseminate that to the board and let you all know exactly what the pluses and minuses are of it. It would be no cost to us. There's funding available. We just have to get all the information about that, about the iPads for everybody. Are there any questions at this time?
I just say, you say you reached out to Parsons Blewett. I don't know what the foundation does, St. Louis Public School Foundation. You may reach out to them as well.
Okay, that's a good idea, Al. I'll do that. I'm waiting on St. Louis County Library to get back with me to give me the particulars on exactly how we apply for it or whatever we have to do in order to get involved. But they've already given out quite a few of these, like I said, with subscription service for the iPad. And so, but I will reach out to the foundation as well.
Louis, did you say there were 4,500 retirees who needed, or 4,500 retirees in the system?
I think there are approximately 4,500. We had 6,000 at one point. The information that we presented to the school board on that work session, am I right, Sue, around 4,500?
Yeah, we're close to that total number of retirees, yes.
Okay, so it's not that we need iPads for 4,500. That's
what we would hope to get, but we just have to take a look and see what all's involved in that process, and how much it would cost, and so forth and so on. One of the problems that's impacting our retirement system is that a lot of the people that are working for the system are contractual. Your psych examiners, the PTs and the IT, all the different people, they work contractually, so they're not paying into the system, and that impacts the system as well. And I don't know if there's too much that we can do about that, but we are going to make mention of it. It would be great if the more people that the board hires on the front end, of course, helps us on the back end if they are hired and stay in our system. And no matter how long they stay, they pay as long as they're in the system. But
okay, excuse
yes.
me, Louis. Just for clarification here, what I'm trying to find out if it's 4,500 retirees or 4,500 people needing iPads, is that maybe some retirees already have the iPads or the IT needed that we might not need 4,500. And that's why I'm asking about the numbers. If 4,500 needed or 4,500 retirees.
Well, at this point, it's exploratory, Sheila. And so we
Okay.
would certainly ask all of our members of the retiree chapter who need those, who would like to have those iPads. Hopefully,
Okay.
we could get one to everybody who needs it, but certainly we wouldn't give them one if they already have it.
Right.
The unique thing about this is that they pay for everything. They pay for the iPad and they pay for the service for the iPad, and it's free.
Okay.
Louis,
But,
have you
again,
thought about inviting Velma to talk to the board, to present to the board?
Yeah, yes. What I'll do is at our next meeting is in what, Sue, June?
June 20th.
Okay, we'll put Velma on for that meeting. And by that time, hopefully we'll have all the information necessary for us to make a decision after she presents, whether we want to get involved in it or not, and if we want to partner with the other organizations that are involved in the school system.
Great.
So yes, Belma would be, we would all invite her for the next meeting. Any other questions?
Louis, I have a question.
Yes.
So, yeah, so the St. Louis Public Library does offer, for those that already have technology or phones or whatever, they do offer the hotspots, the free wireless hotspots. However, I just want to be clear that it's a loaner system. And so for the Wi-Fi, so they have to return that. So there is equipment that has to be returned with that program as well. So we just want to make sure that if this information is out there, that we better understand the whole dynamics of the process. Because right now you could sign up to get a free hotspot for Wi-Fi if you don't have it in your home, but you have to return the equipment. So it's lent to you kind of like on a long-term basis. So I just want to make sure that, we have all the information before we discuss anything with retirees, and maybe doing a survey of how many retirees actually, well, if they're doing a survey, they actually have access to Wi-Fi somehow on their phone or on a tablet. So it's a little bit harder. So you might have to, this might be a great idea that we have to put something in the newsletter that gets mailed out, so that for those that do not have technology, would like technology, that we can do it that way. But those that have the ability to have monkey survey, right, then that means they have it either at work or on their phone, but maybe not at home, right? So,
Right.
So there's various different ways to work on this. So let's just make sure that we have all the questions asked before we get a presenter, so that we know. And I think it's great to bring her before the board.
Well, we have until June, and as I explained, between now and June, I will get information. Sue and I will get information out to the board members about what the pluses and minuses and everything involved in it. Right now, don't know anything more than I'm waiting on a call back from St. Louis County Public Library to give me the information on exactly what's all involved. And then from there, we will, as usual, we'll go through it with a fine-tooth comb and make a determination if we want to even deal with it. And as you well know, when you have something out there and it has to be returned, then that can be an issue. And we don't want to get caught up. Thank you, Christina, for reiterating that issue. I mean, that concern, because that is a major concern. One time when I was with Local 420 president, we gave as a gift a cell phone, a year's service free, and the phone. And then the lady ran over the minutes and we couldn't get the phone back, and it just turned into a mess. So yes, I'm clear on that, and we'll make sure that we cover all our bases and make sure that we don't have any liabilities. Are there any other questions? Any other questions? Okay, Sue?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I had just a few items before we dive into one of the main topics for today. Of course, in your tab 4, the normal monthly statistics. So if anybody has any questions about that, but that's there, I won't really go over that. A couple of other items. We talked last month about getting some assistance with those global class action lawsuits. So I have gotten a few additional firms that we can look at. So I'm in the process of doing that. So either next month, or perhaps we could do it at the investment committee meeting upcoming. We'll have more details on that. So just wanted to let you know that was still in progress. We also, I had sent out an email about the devices for the trustees. Anybody that wanted a device, kind of said, let me know by middle of March. But I have heard back from some individuals, but not everybody. So if anybody is interested, you still have time. We are going to meet later this week with our IT firm, and we're going to start working on that process. So if
I'm sorry,
anybody
Sue, what
is
kind of
still- device for the trustees, so you can use for board meetings and so forth, anybody that's interested in getting a device provided by the system. So we're not sure what kind of device yet. We haven't really started on the process. It might be an iPad, it could be a Chromebook, whatever it is, we're gonna start that process this week. So if anybody's interested, let me know. I mean, it's certainly not gonna wouldn't be too late in the future, but we'll probably be putting an order in here fairly soon. So if anybody is interested, if you let me know in the next couple of days, that would be helpful. If any of the trustees are interested. Like I said, I've heard back from some trustees, but just not everybody. The other item that I wanted to comment on is we are going to have some in-person conferences this year. NCTR has a couple scheduled, and we also have MAPERS, which is held here in the state of Missouri. So if anybody is interested, again, I've heard back from a number of trustees, and if anybody is interested in attending, certainly still let me know. NCTR has a couple of they have the trustee workshop in July, and then the 100th annual conference will be in October. So what typically we would do is handle the registration for those events and take care of that, pay that up front, but any other travel arrangements that would be kind of left to the trustees. And then, there's a process, and I think we'll have a meeting that we can talk about that more. But again, I just wanted to mention, we do have those conferences coming up. If anybody is interested in attending, please let me know. I haven't heard back yet if there's going to be a virtual option on any of the NCTR events. I've reached out and asked that question. There is a system directors conference that I am tentatively planning to attend in June. It's in Atlanta. But again, just trying to figure out if there's virtual or if everything is just going to be in person this year. So lots of good opportunities after a few years of not being able to do this sort of thing. But again, just wanted to throw it out. If anybody's interested, let me know. And, we can take care of the registration. And then again, we'll talk a little bit later about how that whole process will work as far as reimbursement for trustee expenses, things like that. All right. So any questions about the conferences or anything like that?
So you want us to go ahead and do the registration ourselves, or
No.
you do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll take care of the registration, the actual registration. And once that's confirmed, then, it would be travel expenses that, the trustees can apply for some funds up front, but as far as getting reimbursed, all of that would be something we'd have to work through.
Okay.
So,
Question, Sue, as far as the airline accommodations, everybody makes their own, or can we get a group rate through some kind of service?
yeah, I don't think that's how it's been done in the past. And I think really there's not, gosh, I don't even know. I guess there are some travel agencies left, but
There is a room rate. The conference always has a room rate for NCTR or NAS. So if it's obviously at the Lowe's Ventana Canyon, they have a block of rooms reserved for the conference attendees. If you go to NCTR on their page, it'll tell you that it's $219 plus taxes per night.
yeah, so I don't think any of that registration is open yet. So, we're just kind of watching for that. Like I said, the system directors meeting in June, that registration hasn't even opened just yet. So, again, I reached out and asked some questions of NCTR, just have not heard back yet. But So anybody wants to attend, just let me know. We'll take care of that part. So the system will pay for that, the registration up front. It would just be airfare, hotel, and then any meals that could be reimbursed then by the system. So could be a great learning year. All right, anything else on that? Well,
So let me just, because most people, if you're gonna fly into Phoenix, it's 2 hours from Phoenix to Tucson. If you want to get on a prop plane, then you fly directly into Tucson. So I'm just being, honest. It's,
Yeah. How are you gonna go, Chris? Are you gonna drive from Tucson? I mean, from Phoenix to Tucson? Or are you gonna take a crop duster?
Well, it depends, right? So the big thing is you can take a flight from Phoenix to Tucson on a prop plane for $89 around there. But the conference changed this year, so it's a Saturday to a Tuesday or Wednesday, I think it is, where typically they used to start Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So it's a little different. So now you're flying on Friday to get there the night before if you're going to go. So it's a little bit different. They're taking up a weekend so that people don't miss work, or if for those that have to work full time. So it's a little different than historically it's been.
Okay.
all right. So next, I would like to introduce Jeannie D. She's here from Anders, and she is going to present and talk about the financial statements and the auditor's report. It was something that was sent out late in the day today. So Jeannie and her team were on site back in March for a couple of weeks. And so Jeannie, welcome. And
thank you.
I'll get the presentation up. So
did you want to share your screen, or do you want me to share mine? Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
I will.
So let me start by saying thank you to everyone. It's good to see you again. My name is Jeannie D. I'm the audit partner here at Anders CPAs and Advisors. We are delighted to have the opportunity to work with PSRS. My colleague Sarah Mills had an unfortunate family emergency this afternoon, so she's the senior audit manager on the engagement. And Raven Lawhorn is out of town right now. She was the supervising in-charge accountant. Both Sarah and Raven have been on the audit off and on for a couple of years. And I took over for Tom Helm when he retired, I think 2 or so years ago. So Tom sends his best regards. He still comes around the office from time to time, and I'm sure he'd want me to say hello to everybody. We did complete, as Sue mentioned, we did complete our audit. Sue, I'll start with this letter, but I think it's, this is the audit report. I'm sorry. I'd like to take you through our audit letter to those charged with governance, which you see in front of you on the screen. This letter will detail some of the qualitative aspects of performing the audit. I was joking a little bit with Terry and Sue that, and I hope everyone understands my context here, it was a boring audit. But that's a good thing. It was a good thing to have a quiet, comfortable audit. We got through our work very, very cleanly and efficiently. We love a good, boring audit. After last year with the pandemic and having to adjust to doing things remotely, it's good to be back in person with all of our work papers and all of our computers and all of our equipment and everything, and have good conversations with Terry and Sue at the system. So this letter really details some of what I call the qualitative aspects. If you scroll down a little bit, we start by identifying what we call significant audit matters. Those are qualitative aspects of accounting practices. There were really no significant accounting policies adopted this year, and the application of existing policies was really not changed in the current year. We have some GASB pronouncements, but they were not really big sweeping pronouncements that had a major impact on the financial statements, the audited financial statements. All of the transactions are recorded in the proper period, or recognized in the financial statements in the proper period. Furthermore, there's always going to be a number of estimates in your accounting and your reporting, right? You're a governmental entity, you're very heavily invested in investments, There's different ways to measure fair value. So we have to point out to you as governing board members where we think the significant accounting estimates are. And those are sensitive because different facts and circumstances, you may have a swing in the fair values of some of these instruments and so forth. So we've pointed out to you the ones that we feel are estimates here. And Sue, you want to scroll down just a couple of paragraphs. Most of this is involving the fair value of your investment instrument. Some of them are what we call level 1. They're quoted prices in active markets, but there are other things that it's less easy to just point to a real-time fair value, like real estate partnerships and things like that. But if you continue to scroll down, we get to a statement where we feel that the estimates are all reasonable. That's what I'm looking for. The key factors and assumptions used to develop all these estimates, and they're reasonable in relation to the financial statements taken as a whole. And I always say in this letter, there's a lot of things in this letter that if that were not true, you'd have been hearing about it before this meeting. So this is somewhat of a formality. Furthermore, we do want to point out to you what we think are the more sensitive disclosures in your financial reporting in the audit. So we'll go through the audit in just a moment. But we do have some disclosures about significant amounts of investments that are subject to market risk. That's just a natural thing. That's part of any type of system like this. Furthermore, I talked with Sue and Terry both a little bit about the fact that even though we're past year end and we've had some fluctuation in the markets, that's all accounted for really in your disclosures to the reader that, hey, we're going to have ups and downs in the market. We ended the year at a very, very strong position, but since then there have been normal ups and downs. That's not anything that would require a subsequent event disclosure, anything like that. Then if you scroll down a little bit more, Sue, we have stated that we feel that the disclosures in your financial statements are neutral, consistent, and clear, which is going to be down, I think, a little bit further beyond all these. Yeah, financial statement disclosures are neutral, consistent, and clear. So that covers sort of that side of the audit. And then the last couple of paragraphs deal with what, frankly, like I said, if we had anything to say in these paragraphs, you would have heard about it by now. But we had no difficulties in dealing with anyone in management in performing our audit. I like to turn that around a little bit and say that we have great cooperation working with both Terry and Sue. They're very forthcoming. They provide all the documentation we're looking for, help us work through issues. We look for biased answers. We look for implausible answers, things that just don't make sense. And if we had anything that we thought needed to come to the attention of this board, we would do so in this letter. But really, we had no difficulties at all. Often we will identify some audit adjustments. So the next paragraph just deals with any adjustments that we did identify to send back to Terry to post to your books and records. Nothing really significant to report to you there. And the last couple of paragraphs, Sue, if you want to scroll down a little bit more. No disagreements in working with anyone in management. The reason this is different than a difficulty is that it doesn't matter who comes out victorious in the conversation. So ultimately, I still have to report to this board if we have an accounting disagreement on an interpretation of an accounting standard or anything like that. We did receive the representation letter today, which is why everything you're looking at has been finalized. So we thank you for that. And that's the written representations of all the things that we talk about during the course of our audit. And last but not least, the consultations with other independent accountants. This is just a safety net for you that if Terry or Sue felt like they weren't happy with our response on something and they wanted to shop around for another opinion, they can do that, but that other accountant has to call us and get all the relevant facts and circumstances. It's called a second opinion, and it's important that the board would know if that took place. It did not take place to our knowledge. The last couple of paragraphs deal with, we want to be a resource to you year round, even though we are independent accountants. If something comes up that Terry needs some advice on the proper accounting treatment, or Sue has a question about a business matter, we can offer some consultation to you, but it is not performed as a condition to our retention as your auditors. So that's very important. You're always free to get responses from us, and you don't have to keep us next year. The last couple of paragraphs deal with required supplementary information, which we're going to talk about in just a moment, and that this information is derived from and relates directly to your basic financial reporting. So Sue, if you want to switch over briefly to the audit itself. And yeah, we've got our cover letter and our table of contents. I always like to say when I work with systems like this, and I have a few clients that are sizable public employee retirement systems, you've got everything in the kitchen sink in your financial reporting. I know major corporations that don't have 50-page financial statements, and it's because we've got all of these what we call GASB 68 and GASB 67 disclosures. We've got a lot of data, actuarial data, accounting data, sort of quasi-legal data. All of this thing is required by your financial reporting requirements to be included in this report. So it's a pretty big endeavor. So if you want to go down to the opinion, I do want to spend a moment on this. The opinion has changed. So those of you who've been around the system for a while or been working with this board, I think I said last year was the last year that the auditor's report would have the exact same language and flow that it's had for about the past 15 or so years. This is a change that was made in auditing and professional auditing for all businesses in the United States, including governmental entities, not-for-profit entities, mom and pop shops. Anybody who gets an audit is going to have a change in the way the structure and the language used in the audit report. The reason for this, just if you're interested, is that right now, before this change, international reporting standards were very different. And if I was running a company and I had an international division and they had a separate audit, those reports didn't line up at all. So this was a measure by the Auditing Standards Board to synchronize that reporting a little bit, so it was kind of consistent in its flow. The biggest thing is that we've moved the opinion first. This is what everybody wants to know, that we've audited the financial statements of PSRS, which comprise this statements of fiduciary net position as of December 31st, 2021 and 2020, and the related statements of changes in fiduciary net position and the related notes. In our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the financial position of PSRS as of year end. We call this an unmodified opinion or a clean audit opinion. And that, if I were in your shoes, I would like to know, that means two very, very important things. It means, number one, there are no material departures from generally accepted accounting principles. That's very important. And number two, it means we had no problems with the scope of our audit procedures. In other words, we could apply all the tests and procedures that we needed to in order to get to this opinion. So it is the highest type of audit opinion that the system can receive on its external financial statements. So I wish to congratulate you again on a very, very successful audit. The rest of the report has changed a little bit from prior years. The basis for opinion just explains that we conduct our audit in accordance with our standards. So if you'd like to scroll down just a couple of paragraphs, that's really not changed. If you go down the responsibilities of management, this is really important. These are your financial statements. They are your representations to your constituents. Therefore, really the responsibility for all of the tables and the footnotes disclosures and all the schedules, it's really with management and ultimately this board. Our work as your auditors is to perform our tests and procedures in accordance with our standards to develop an opinion about whether or not your financials are fairly stated, which we've done at the top. If you scroll down a little bit more, we've expanded the language on auditors' responsibilities a little bit further to identify a couple of things that we think are important to convey to particularly users of financials and board members. Number one, we're required to exercise professional judgment and maintain skepticism throughout the audit. We do perform a risk assessment. So we identify the key areas that we feel are going to be riskier, frankly. Those are obviously going to be your big numbers, right? That's going to be your investment balances, fair value measurements, some of the more complicated GASB 68 disclosures and tables, the things I just talked about in that letter that are sensitive to the reader of your financials. We want to make sure that we hit those with a lot of additional procedures and audit tactics. So we make sure those are fairly reported and consistent with standards. And then the last couple of things is, even though we do look at your internal control system just to understand how it works, we don't give you an opinion about your internal controls or the effectiveness of internal controls. We've never done that, and we're not planning on doing it in the future. We don't do that in the private company or public retirement system market, as it were, in the United States.
Do you provide recommendations though?
We do, and we have in the past. If we identify things that we think are best practices that the system could adopt relatively easily, we will provide those to you. Also, if we identify anything that we consider to be a significant deficiency or material weakness in internal controls, we are required to put that in a letter. I will tell you that we did not identify any of those items that we felt rose to that level. And we really didn't have any additional best practice comments to share with this board. On a day-to-day basis, we may talk to Susan and Terry about just some operational odds and ends, but really it was very, very low level and nothing that we felt needed to come to the attention of this board. So that's a good question, and thank you for asking that, because it's often confusing on, where do we stop in terms of recommendations versus opining about internal controls. So that's important. And then the last sentence is why we're here today. We are required, Sue, if you could scroll down just a notch. We are required to communicate to those charged with governance about our plan, scope, and timing, significant audit findings, internal control matters that we identified. I'm sorry, that's not the last couple of paragraphs deal with our the work that we do with respect to what's called required supplementary information. That's required, but we don't really provide an opinion or assurance on that information because it's not subject to the scope of our audit procedures. That's very normal for a system like this. So, and it's been that way for several years. I don't see any changes coming to the auditing standards on that. So we're just identifying which pages coming forward are going to have an audit opinion attached versus which ones just have limited procedures performed. And I think that, Sue, if you want to scroll down just a little bit more. Yeah, the same thing with the other supplementary information. The other supplementary information is things like your investment expenses, your schedule of administrative expenses. That is derived from and relates directly to your basic financial statements. We are able to put what we call a in relation to opinion. That information is fairly stated in relation to the basic financial statements taken as a whole. And it's signed and dated as of today. So I know that was a lot to cover. That's just our work, right? That's my work product. But I felt it was important because we have changed some of that language this year. Thankfully, it's not changing going forward. It's going to be the same language, at least for another probably 5-10 years or so. But does anyone have any questions on that piece of it before I quickly go over the actual balance sheet and income statement?
Well, I don't have a question, Jeannie, but
Yes,
the
sir.
last time you presented, this is Lewis Cross. The
Yes,
last
sir.
time you presented, at some point, I remember you saying that we needed to get out of the QuickBooks and get into a structured accounting program for the payroll and so forth. And I just want to tell you, I really appreciate you all bringing that up, and Sue has taken care of that.
She has indeed. And I should point out, we often, during the part of that normal conversations that we'll have with Sue and Terry, we'll check in on anything that we may have discussed last year and what the status is. So with that, as you pointed out, we really didn't have any further strong recommendations to provide to you this year. We felt that again, we can't say your controls are perfect, but we didn't identify any deficiencies that we felt or hey, there's a real risk here that you really need to stop and take a look at. Everything's really running fairly well. And that can be said because I didn't have any audit adjustments. It was a very clean report, no disagreements, no problems incorporating any new accounting standards. I mean, again, I hate to say it this way, but it was a rather boring audit. So anytime we have that, we're probably not going to have a lot in the way of recommendations and things to share with you. So that's a good thing. I think we can all use a nice, good, clean, solid audit report. So if you would like to scroll down to I just want to cover a couple of pieces on the basic. Actually, it's going to be after your MD&A. And what Sue is scrolling through is the management discussion and analysis, which relates directly back to the basic financial statements, but as it sounds, it's management's words, and that's a required element here. But the first financial statement appears on page, I guess we're on page 16 of the document. And this is really we would call it a balance sheet, but it's a statement of fiduciary net position. It describes all of the assets, all of the liabilities and debts, and then all of the sort of available for all of the net assets available for pensions. At one moment in time, it is measured at December 31st of 2021. So I know we're 4 months after that now, but at that time, so if you would like to scroll down just a little bit to the total investment balance was 962 million, just under 963. We also have some property and equipment. So we have total assets of 974. In GASB reporting, governmental plans have what we call deferred outflows and deferred inflows of resources. Those are going to be recognized as assets and liabilities at a later period. They're described in the footnotes of the financial statements. But if we look at if we keep going down a little bit, Sue, we have 1.5 million of total liabilities, but we have net position restricted for pensions of 972. So that was a pretty sizable uptick from the 2020 number of 914. And as I said earlier, I know that's probably moved down quite a bit in the first quarter of 2022. But yet the fluctuation is disclosed to the reader, and that's consistent with generally accepted accounting principles. There's always going to be some natural fluctuation. We didn't feel that it rose to a level that I'd have to warn the reader, it's causing a significant problem for the system. And if you would scroll further down to the next page, and this is probably where I'll stop, the additions on the year, when you include all of the employer contributions and member contributions, were 62,107,000. Our investment return, and again, this is Sue, if you notch down just a notch or two, net investment income of 116. And then we do have some rental and other miscellaneous up and down. The miscellaneous, by the way, there's some adjustments made to some of the foreign securities. We had that last year. It kind of reversed itself this year. So we had net additions of 173,261,000. And then if we look at all of our deductions on the year, which is going to be mostly our benefits paid, plus some operating expenses and other items, we had deductions of 115, just a slight uptick from the prior year. So overall, our increase in net position, as you saw on the balance sheet, was 58 million. I think, unless anyone has any significant questions, I don't think at this meeting we usually dive into, the rest of the financial statements and report. There will be this will be re-represented in the annual comprehensive financial report coming up this summer. If anyone does have questions about some of the footnotes disclosures, I would be delighted to answer them. There are a lot of disclosures, right? It goes on for pages and pages because of all of the actuarial information that needs to be included, the investment fair value information that needs to be included. But these are kind of the heart and soul pages, as I like to think of it. The constituents who may read this report would probably be interested in what's kind of the bottom line. Where does the system stand in terms of net position available for benefits? The actuarial information is important. And it is included, but I kind of like to focus on these and the auditor's report. So I'll shut up for a minute and see what kinds of questions you all have. I think that would probably conclude my report, though.
I did have a question, Jeannie, but I guess I have to defer to Matt concerning the charter school audits. Would you handle that, Matt?
We can discuss that in my legal report.
Okay.
I plan on updating you about that, yes.
Okay, thank you. No.
Fair enough.
Okay, Jeannie.
Yes, sir. No, that's no problem at all. I guess the last couple of things I'll mention, as we will be performing the additional work on the annual comprehensive financial report. And I don't know if this will cross over what you guys are going to talk about in a minute, but we do some separate audit work later in the year, as you remember, with respect to GASB 68 reporting. And that does include a look at some of the schools and what they're paying in. Our firm is willing, and we do have a department that handles payroll audits. So I think that's coming up on your agenda later. So I have a fellow senior manager in my firm named Brad Soderstrom, and he'd be happy to meet with this board at any time going forward, but we are able to assist you in a deeper dive at some of those schools when you get to that conversation later. So I think the last thing I'd like to say is, we've really enjoyed working with everyone at the office and all of you on the board. I do know you're going out for bid this year, and I think it's a good practice. We understand that. We've gone through the process before, so we would be delighted to develop a proposal for you when the time comes later on this year. But in the meantime, if there is a question about this audit or these disclosures, please reach out to me or anyone on my team, and we'd be happy to talk with you.
And Jeannie, did you want to mention how, what Anders ended up doing with the in-trust position?
Oh, I'm sorry. That's a good point. Yeah, I didn't get into the details of the Peruvian.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Yeah, it came to our attention, and I appreciate this. It came to our attention that those securities, that it was questionable if they really truly could be sold or had any liquidity or any real value. So at the end of the day, we agreed with management that it's not really technically a write-off per se, but we booked with management, and we agreed to this, an allowance on that dollar amount, just to take that down to zero. Now later, if you sell them later in a future period and you're able to recoup some of that, that's fine. You pick up that additional income when it happens. But this is a more conservative approach, and we felt that it was the right answer, given the circumstances for your financial reporting. Thank you. Yeah, okay. The other thing, Sue, I guess I should mention is that there is a disclosure in footnote 1 about the asset allocation and the long-term real rate of return associated with, because of the change over to ANCO, some of the classifications of those securities just changed a little bit. They sort of morphed. They put a couple of things in buckets that were different than the prior one. So it's still the same asset allocation. That footnote we've modified a little bit, and then we've included it sort of below that table how it maps. So if a reader was looking at last year and then they're going to look at this year, they would understand how some of those buckets changed. So we thought that was a better disclosure, a little bit more transparent and easier to follow. That was really, honestly, the only significant, not even really significant change to your footnotes disclosures, but I'm glad you mentioned those, Sue. It is important to point those out.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all again. Have a good meeting, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. Take care.
All right. Thank you, Jeannie.
Sue,
Yep.
Donna said she thinks she's having trouble with her internet because she still couldn't get in.
Okay. All right. So I think that concludes my report. So we ready to?
The next item is the report of the investment consultant. There's no report, right?
Yeah, ANCO is not here.
Okay, report of the actuary.
So we do have Mike Rebel here today, and he's gonna talk with us just about a slight clarification on the experience study that we had last December. So I'm gonna get that should have been included in your packet, his presentation that he's gonna share, but I'm gonna get it up on the screen here. All right, Mike, so the floor is yours.
Thanks, Sue. Good afternoon, everyone. During the audit presentation, my battery died, even though it's plugged into the wall. So I don't know what happened, but I'm glad Sue saved me and got me back in. Yeah, this is just a brief presentation. Last December, we went through 73 pages of an experience study, if you'll recall. And in June, you'll have the pleasure, we're working on our new valuation results, and we'll have pleasure of diving into our January 1st, 2022 valuation results, which will use the assumptions and methods of the experience study that was adopted. So we just wanted to provide a brief clarification as we were working on some other things and working through the valuation. We noticed something in the report that we wanted to clarify. So if you go flip forward a few slides there, we'll just take care of this real quick. So, we said we went through and did an experience of all your retirement assumptions and mortality and the like. but we also dug into all of the methods that we use, actuarial methods. And actuarial methods are used for, so we have liabilities that we need to fund, and the methods are how we're going to pay for them, or how we want to determine the employer contributions that would be required to fund the plan. And as part of that, we did a nice reset of a fresh look at all the methods. And one of the methods that we needed the board to decide on was what we call the amortization method. And this is, how do we pay for the pension debt of the fund? I think we have some 389 million of pension debt as of January 1st, 2021. Was a good investment return during 22. So I mean, during 2021, so that number should come down on its own. But how do we pay for the pension debt under the method? And so we reviewed this slide and, looked at past practices, looked at best practices, looked at some white papers, and we looked at the demographics and the funded status of your plan. And we said, well, we need to, we recommend a method that pays off. Basically, it's like paying off your house. You have to pay it over a number of years. And how are you going to amortize that? So we looked at 15 and somewhere we wanted to be somewhere between 15 and 20 years. So we looked at the amortization periods, the demographics, funded status of your plan, and ended up recommending or intending to recommend 15-year amortization of the unfunded liabilities. And that's how we came up with the cost for the experience study that you'll see on the last slide. But if you'll go forward one slide, when we presented this slide as one of the 73 slides, all the numbers that say 15 here said 20 on there. Earlier versions we had considered 20 years, but based on a review of like I said, your demographics and best practices, we ended up thinking 15-year amortization was the best method. Unfortunately, we had, I just present slides as I read them. I'm sure that I said 20 because that's what the slide said. But all the figures and analysis and costs that we provided were based on 20 years, and that's what we intended. So I just wanted to clarify that we recommend going to a 15-year amortization. And, on the next slide, next slide there, the cost, nothing changed on this cost analysis. So on the bottom row or line item 11, before we started the experience study, our cost of the plan for the employer for the upcoming year, well, this is based on 2021, how we measured, was 45.3 million. And by the time we changed the methods, the assumptions, mortality, and the investment return down to from 7.5 to 7, you'll see on the last column, the 45.3 went down to 44.1 million. And all of this was based on 15-year amortization. So I just want to clarify that. It didn't change any analysis or the cost, but unfortunately we had to put that wrong numbers on that prior slide. So I don't know if there's any questions about that or discussion.
Yeah, and I think if there's no questions, we would just want to do a motion just to clarify that. So let me get that up. So that's that number 2 motion.
I make a motion to adopt a 15-year amortization period, which was included in the cost effects of proposed assumptions presented to the trustees at the December 21st regular board meeting.
Richardson,
second.
second.
Sorry.
Okay, I'll do a roll call. Angela Banks,
Yes.
Christina Bennett,
Yes.
Louis Cross,
Yes.
Sheila Goodwin, Sheila,
Sheila,
Yes.
okay, and Donna Jones, Martell Mann,
Yes.
Bobby Richardson,
Yes.
Albert Sanders,
Yes.
Justin Stein,
Yes.
Doris Walker.
Yes.
All right, so we have 9, the motion carries.
Sue, did you see me?
I'm sorry, who is
It's
that?
Yvette. It's Yvette.
Oh, Yvette, you're on.
Yeah,
I apologize, I didn't know you
no
were on.
worries. Yes.
Okay, awesome, thank you. So then we have 10.
So do we have an updated presentation or wherever that's documented? Did you send that out, Sue?
Are you talking about with the amortization?
Yes.
Yeah, it should have been in the packet, but I'll make sure and send that out if it was not.
Okay, thank you. It's probably there.
All right, thank you, Mike. Appreciate. And we'll
Thank
see you in June.
Yes, we will. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Mike. Okay, we'll move on. Reports of committees of the board, tab 3. Benefits, Donna Jones and Bobby Richardson.
No report at this time.
Okay. Trustee business, Sheila Goodwin and Doris Walker.
No report at this time.
Okay. Investments,
I
Christina
think
Bennett.
Doris was, Doris, you're on
Oh,
mute.
Doris. I'm sorry, Doris. Doris?
You're on mute, Doris. You're on mute.
I'm sorry. Susan sent a notice out for a meeting on May the 11th at 4:30 p.m.
Okay.
Yeah,
That was
that would
for
be- Yeah, the fiduciary
committee
training.
meeting. It's concerning travel, policy and vouchers.
Okay. All right. So we'll send information out at that time so that everybody can chime in on that so they can be clear on everything, right, Sue, concerning travel?
Yeah, we'll do a little, kind of a dialogue about the voucher forms because it's been a few years. Plus, we've also had some, new trustees perhaps that haven't traveled. We'll talk about that. And then also Matt will walk us through fiduciary training as well, something that we talked about at the December meeting. And so we wanted to get that on the calendar. And May 11th is the date. Haven't sent out notices to all the trustees yet. This was just kind of going back and forth with the co-chairs and Chairman Cross. So we're looking at, and of course, Matt, but we're looking at May 11th as the date. It's a Wednesday.
Okay. So investment committee, Christina Bennett, Martell Mann, and now Dr. Albert Sanders report. Do they hear me?
I hear you.
Chris, Martell, Albert, do you all have a report for investments?
Can you repeat that? I stepped
said
away
do-
for a second.
I said, do you, Martell or Albert, have a report for the investment committee?
I don't believe we have a report that requires action.
That's
No
Okay.
report.
Okay, all right, moving on, legislative rules and regulations, Justin Stein and Dr. Sanders.
I don't have anything.
Okay, I think Matt kind of covers that as far as the legislation and the and all of the things that go with trying to get that tax, that reduction in the amount the board pays in his report. Okay, personnel and professional contracts, Yvette Levy and Angie Banks.
No report.
Okay. All right, I'll move on to new business. Any new business?
I'm not aware of anything.
Okay. Then report of the attorney. Matt?
Yes, good evening. Good evening, everybody. I have a few items to discuss tonight. So if we could move to closed session to discuss those, that'd be appreciated.
I make a motion to close the meeting and that all records and votes to the extent permitted by law pertaining to and resulted from this closed meeting be closed under Missouri.
Oh, sorry.
Revised statutes, Missouri 610.021 for the purpose of having confidential and privileged communication with the legal counsel for PSR SSTL on legal matters.
Second.
Roll call.
Angela Banks,
Yes.
Christina Bennett,
Yes.
Lewis Cross,
Yes.
Sheila Goodwin,
Yes.
Donna Jones, Yvette Levy,
Yes. Here.
Martell Mann,
Yes.
Bobby Richardson,
Yes.
Albert Sanders,
Yes.
Justin Stein,
Yes.
Doris Walker.
Yes.
All right, so we have 10, motion carries. Just need to do a few things. Minute here to see if we come. 5. Okay, I think we are live.
Okay. Can I get, is there anything else? Otherwise, we can get a motion for adjournment.
Sheila Goodwin makes the motion that we adjourn.
The second.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you all so much.
Good night,
Okay.
everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Everybody.
Thanks.
Hey, Sue, I'll call you tomorrow. You call me. No, you call me, Sue.
Okay, all right,
Thank you.
all right.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bobby, good job getting started. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
You did it like a pro. You really
Oh, you
did.
know, when you give me that little role to be in charge, I just try to run with it.
You did great. So thank
Okay,
you.
well, I was gonna, you got my request for the 2 conference, right?
I do have
Okay.
yours, yeah. Mhm.
So the one for Maples, you're gonna go ahead and put the registration in and I just need to call and do my hotel?
Yeah, did you want to go to, was it May? I thought you were, oh, no, you're
Maples-
right. It was Mapers and the other one.
Right,
The one in October, I think you wanted to go
Right.
to. Yeah.
right. So do I go ahead and do my hotel for Maples?
Yeah, I would wait. So Mapers, you could go ahead and do, because that registration is open. So I'll do
Oh.
that probably this week. I would probably wait on the other one.
Okay,
Just because, we just never know with this crazy COVID, if it's gonna, if they're gonna cancel and go virtual again. So, so probably at least till they open the registration, and then I'll let everybody know. And then you can
Okay,
work on airfare and hotel and all that good stuff. So,
okay, all right. And I'm still thinking about the iPad.
Okay, okay, all right.
You know, you said just for the meeting, so go ahead and put me down then, you know,
Okay.
because I never know when this laptop gonna go, you know, act a fool sometime.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it seems
Okay.
like you've gotten something better. I don't know if you're using a different device or.
No, I got a new laptop.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right. So-
okay. And I don't know what we'll have, if it'll be an iPad or a Chromebook or something. But anyway, I'll put you down and then we'll kind of go from there.
All right. Thanks, Susan.
Okay, you have a great
Okay.
evening.